And now, your host, Couch Tomato!
Hey, I'm Couch Tomato and I'm joined by
Hulk.
Welcome to Stuff for Movie Buffs, and today we're talking
Equalizer 2.
All right, let's get into it. Heavily anticipated sequel. Actually, before we get into that, if you want to support the podcast, the YouTube channel, or anything that we do here, head over to our Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/CouchTomatoFilms. And whatever you could do will be greatly appreciated. Any dollar that you give automatically enrolls you into our group chat where we discuss topics like today's episode, as well as we're releasing 2 episodes. And there's different levels. If you want to actually be a guest on the podcast, we got that. And if you actually want to help produce some Couch Tomato films and get credit on the videos, there's a level for that as well. So head over. I think even $1 goes a long way. So visit us there. All right, so Equalizer 2, heavily anticipated sequel for me at least. Hulk, I don't know how you felt about the first one. I loved it. This is something that I was waiting for the longest. I kind of feel like it was long overdue, but nonetheless, I'm just glad we got it, knowing that Denzel doesn't really like sequels. So how did you feel about the first one?
Yeah, same here. I loved it. Definitely, I don't say it's one of my favorite. It's definitely up there as far as one of my favorite Denzel movies. Like, it's just, I really loved it.
Denzel's my favorite actor, so I'm biased. Action wise, I think I don't know. Because I like Book of Eli too, and I like whenever Denzel's that type of dude that's like playing this type of guy, like where he's invincible almost. I think that this film came out the same year as John Wick, which is just it's natural to compare the two.
Yeah.
So for that, this fell under the radar a little bit. So let's get into this one. So what's going on with this one? He's more low key. I think he was working at Hallmark in the first one, and they got him a more realistic job for a vigilante, which is just Lyft. You don't really have to be on papers to where the government's watching you constantly, and you can stay underneath the radar. So he's making citizens arrests, and this aspect felt original, but because it's natural to compare this to the part 1, but I felt in part 1 he was doing these missions that felt more organic. Like the trouble came to him. He didn't necessarily go find the trouble. And in this one, even though he's a Lyft driver all over the city, for some reason it seems like he's only dropping people off in the hood because the crime rate is running rampant. Like every 3 passengers he's having to save the world, and I felt like that part was unrealistic. There's even a rape scene, which I felt like was just added into the movie because of the whole Me Too movement. So they're like, hey, let's put this part in the trailer and people will rally behind it and get behind it. So ultimately, I don't know, this I felt like the trailer. Did you watch the trailer, Hope?
Yeah, I watched the trailer.
Yeah, so it feels like there's like 2 different movies going on. There's one, which is the big mission, because it's not a spoiler. We will get into spoilers, by the way, but he's having to avenge the death of his best friend. And then there's these other side missions. And the way they did it in the first one, he did the side missions first, and then he had a big mission that he had to take care of. And the 2 parts didn't really coincide. So, but with this one, he has his hands in a lot of cookie jars to where he's handling the small missions and the big mission all at the same time. So, I mean, ultimately, I guess I'm kind of like, I'm saying that to preface like if I'm comparing this to part 1, really not that good. Like, I was kind of underwhelmed with this movie. Love Denzel. I love anytime he's on the screen. But the movies that he's in this time, I felt like they came half-stepping.
Oh, wow. Like, I'm on the opposite end. Like, I thought with this one, I thought they did exactly what, like, I wanted them to do. Like, where the action was still gritty. And I felt like even though, like, I get what you're saying as far as the unrealistic part with, like, 1 every 3 passengers need some type of saving, but at the same time, like, it was enough for me to bypass it in a way where even like with like the Walmart situation where it was just like constant everywhere he went. To me, that's how it was too with this one. It was just like it came to him literally because he's the Lyft driver, so it's just like, to me, the action just still came to him, and I felt like okay, that was a little bit more organic. Like I felt like it was fine. Like it's not. I didn't expect it to be like where things were gonna be like so realistic because this world isn't really. But at the same time, neither is John Wick. Neither is movies like this. So I didn't really
even Equalizer, because there's the part where the person stole the ring.
Yeah.
On part one, that always felt disjointed too. So it's not just that though. Like if you're comparing this to part one, which one's better?
Part one, but not by that much though. Not by that much.
I think it's it's head and shoulders, and I'll bring something else because even the villain. Did you see that twist coming?
Yeah, easily.
And remember, we're getting into spoiler territory. The reason I saw the twist, Hope, that guy's starting to become typecast.
Yes, I was just like, I knew that was the main reason why. If they had cast a different actor, maybe I wouldn't have seen the twist coming. But as soon as I saw his face, I was just like, okay, like, come on. You know what I'm saying? Every like character he plays, he's always shady. Like, I don't know if did you watch him on Narcos?
Yeah, I watched him on Narcos, and I think the only time that I'll tell you two things about him that's getting typecast. Number one, he's always shady. Mm-hmm. So the biggest one was Kingsman too. Like he played the same role he played in Kingsman, and the actor that we're talking about is Pedro Pascal. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, he's basically the Martell dude that got his eyes popped out by the mountain when he was supposed to be championing
Top 10,
Tyrion.
one of the goriest scenes I've ever seen on television. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and he's getting typecast two ways. Number one, he's always playing a double crosser. Number two, he's always getting his eyes popped out. Yeah, so remember, spoiler territory. He doesn't make it out this movie with two eyes. I'll tell you that. And he didn't make it out of Game of Thrones with both of them. You know, and then also I remember something happening. He had some head damage, and they had to put that blue thing over his eyes on Kingsman Part 2. So with that, I was like, come on, man. They couldn't hire anybody else. And I thought Antoine Fuqua was being a little bit more savvy and was going to avert the trope. And I thought he was going to make him a good guy. So I'm like, okay, cool. They're trying to trick me, making me think that he's going to double cross, but he's not going to double cross, which is the reason that they hired him in the first place. So for that, I just felt like, even with the villain part one, I didn't like. I just thought he was like kind of mustache twirling.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's like I seen it coming from a mile. All right, Denzel was the only one I was really feeling in the movie, and the young cat, the painter. So I was like, okay, I'm kind of feeling both of those guys. So basically, to kind of summarize what happens in this movie, it's the same beats as part one. He meets a delinquent with a heart of gold and helps him in order to make something of themselves. So the young painter, this guy's on the verge of, just a gifted kid, but he wants to leave school, and he's probably getting pushed into that gang life to where Denzel's kind of standing in the middle of that. And that's no different than on part one with, with Hit Girl, where she was a prostitute, and he's like, you should be a singer. So the same beat there, and he kind of has to help that kid like believe in themselves. There's also a military trained professional that he has a go against, and an abandoned or closed location. So they have this little set piece at the end where it's like Denzel not really using guns, but just kind of going ham with some kitchen material, which I thought was pretty cool. So nonetheless, I think this is a good movie. I think you should possibly wait until DVD, and you'll be just as satisfied. If you got like a movie pass or something, and you're just not really having to swipe your debit constantly for like $10 for a theater ticket, yeah, I would use it on movie pass. But if not, I don't know. Like I personally think you could wait for the Blu-ray or DVD release.
Nah, I really liked it. And this was Denzel's first sequel, right?
Yeah, it's his first sequel. I know I heard him on an interview saying some of that was by his choice, but he really didn't get offered any sequel. There was one time that he was offered a sequel for Inside Man, but it didn't make sense. So he read this and thought that it made sense. So like I said, it's not a bad movie, but when you're comparing it to part one, I didn't think Equalizer was too far off from John Wick. I thought the action in John Wick was extraordinary, but I thought my enjoyment from both movies was really similar. You know, like, so I was like, okay, I'm expecting this sequel to be on par with John Wick 2, which is probably one of the best sequels ever made. And I think it's unfair that I kind of went in with that expectation. So some of that's my issue.
Oh,
but
yeah, I think that's the difference. I knew this was not going to be like that type of class, but I just wanted, like, you know, great action and then, you know, watch Denzel do his thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I got.
I felt like, I'll say one thing and then I'll kind of start talking about some of the action scenes directly. Felt like this movie just was my issue with this. Felt like it was a lot of deleted scenes put up together. Like, there's some scenes in this movie that I felt like, okay, that, you know, that's probably a deleted scene for a Blu-ray. It just doesn't seem right. Like, it doesn't seem, I don't know. They're putting that in the movie. It doesn't really tie in together with everything else they got going on. Something in particular, like, he's just like he's a vigilante. He's worse than Marvel's Daredevil, where he's just going around the city and thinking he bulletproof. And you know what's funny? Like I told you, everybody knows Taekwondo all of a sudden. You know the rapist scene? It's in the trailer.
Yeah, I knew that. Like, but I think that's just setting up the world, though. That's just like introduction. Like, okay,
come on, man.
This is what he's doing now. Like, we haven't seen him in
I know it set him up really nice, but when all of a sudden did rapists just become skilled in Taekwondo?
I'm not saying they were skilled. I just think, like, to me, they were overly matched. You know what I'm saying? Like, all they did was just lunge at him, to me, and then they just...
If you look at their faces, they look like they were military trained. It just looked like they were like, when he locked the door, you see the one at the table, he's like, I thought I had to put this life away. Like, you can see it in his eye, but he's like, I got to come out of retirement. And I'm like, time out, man. Are these frat boys or are these like dudes that are military trained? I don't know. That part seemed unrealistic. And I felt like their blackness wouldn't allow them to go up against the gang members, because I thought it was gonna pop off with the gang members and I wanted to see what that was like. But I guess they were like, nah, it's like, we don't want black on black crime in this. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, I appreciate the responsibility of the director, but some of these scenes just seem disjointed and deleted. Nonetheless, I'm not going to pounce on this movie too much. It's just that I had this as one of my most anticipated films, and it didn't turn out that way. Like I said, I still like the movie because I don't want to sound like I hate it, but I feel like I'm not going to remember this if you ask me about it a year from now or even less. Like, I just feel like I could quote parts from part one. I barely remember what happened in this one. I don't remember anybody's names. So it's like, I don't know if a trilogy is on its way, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the audience score is on the site not to be named the exact same, only 1% off. You know what I'm saying? I think, to me, in my opinion,
what's the percentage total? What's the percentage?
75.
That's good. I mean, the usual gauge I used to use back in the day is if it's over 70, it's something I would pay for.
I think for you, you just went with too high expectations.
That's what I did. That was my problem. I can't take that back. And I'm usually reserved with that. So I messed up. But nonetheless, Denzel's still the homie. You know, like I said, I still like this movie. Didn't love it. Now I just got to go wait to see something else. I am going to see Blind Spotting today. So maybe my weekend will be redeemed. So that's all. I want to hear what you guys think. Maybe I'm imagining this. Are you on Hulk's side or my side? Is this movie kind of underwhelming? Is it better than the original? Is it impossible for it to at least achieve the same thing that the original did? So how did you feel about Equalizer 2 if you saw it? Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter or the comment section to let us know that. So all in all, guys, it's about that time. Thanks for joining us today. Before you leave, if you like what you heard, share it with a friend on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you go for your podcast. Don't let this be the last time we hear from you or you hear from us. Support the show and become a sponsor by visiting our Patreon at www.patreon.com/CouchTomatoFilms. Also, join us next week and check out the show notes on where to find us weekly. It's Couch Tomato Films on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and Couch Tomato Film on Twitter. Other than that, peace.